On? Yeah. Good morning. Hi. Thanks for joining us this week in our weekly Sylvia Findings live stream, which we do every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, and whatever your time zone is. So I guess 1:30 if you're in the East Coast. 10, 11, yeah, 1:30. Um, First day of spring yesterday, vernal equinox. Today was the first day of rain in Vancouver for the first time in a while. Um, Good rain, nice rain. You like rain? Um, Today we're going to talk about caps. I'm going to show you a bunch of caps. But before we do that, I want to go over a couple of, just other, things. Shipping. Uh, Canada Post has been having some trouble lately, and they were getting better, and now they're getting slower again. Uh, so if we're shipping stuff across the country, please allow a couple extra days before you start freaking out and worrying about well, my stuff is lost, again, when you look at the tracking information online, a lot of times it won't say anything until it actually gets to where almost to where it's going. So for example, if we're shipping something from here to you and you're in Toronto, you may not see any tracking information. It'll just say a label has been created. Once we receive more information, we'll display it here. And you may not see any information until the package is already all the way over in Mississauga, and it'll say, arrived in Mississauga, out for delivery tomorrow or whatever. So I know that can be kind of disconcerting. Uh, into America again, in the States has been basically still pretty good, pretty great. Some There are some slowdowns because of U.S. Postal Service shenanigans going on there. I'm not going to get into the politics of that because that's neither here nor there. We're in Canada, so we're largely unaffected by that. Anyway, not getting into that. Um, Internationally, it's as bad as it's ever been. I think we have a customer in Australia who is just worried about a shipment that we sent her that's like 30 something days that's been now. Uh, and as of Monday, last time I checked, it had only just arrived in Australia. I think every time and I'm not sure on this, so don't quote me on this, but I feel like every time international mail, whenever a container of mail comes into a new country, it seems as though it gets stuck for some time, 10 days, 2 weeks. So maybe people are quarantining batches of mail as they get it. I don't know. We'll see. Neither here nor there. But 75 days is what they're quoting for international mail. So just be aware of that. I always like offering the option of using the expedited service, courier service. DHL is the one we use. We've got great rates worked out with them. Into the States, I think it's only $25, and you'll get your package within a day or two at the most, which is awesome. If your shipment is, and I can never really get a straight answer, but I believe if your shipment is less than $800 US value, that you won't pay duties and taxes on that thing, but you will pay customs clearance going through DHL, which I think they charge 12 or 15 bucks. Anyway, courier is always a great option over the post, just because the post is having so much trouble these days. So just beware of that. I want to also just a note about, and I have this written down here. A note about the perks of ordering stuff that if you order anything during the live stream today. First, if you share this video with others, you'll send you a free polishing cloth, right? Um, I guess I'll open it. I do every week. Right, polishing cloth is just a green chamois material with fused with a chemical that um, helps to unbind copper in the oxygen, cupric oxide, which is tarnish. Um, these are awesome polishing cloths. Don't wash them because as soon as you wash it, all the chemical gets washed out, and then it just becomes another cloth. Um, but you can keep using that thing until it's like completely black, and then they're super inexpensive, so you can just buy another one. But as far as some of the other benefits of ordering, if you order during the live stream, you get 10% off the regular pricing for members of related social media groups and clubs, bead societies, gem and mineral societies, lapidary societies. So just let us know which club you're a member of. You'll get your 10% off. This obviously doesn't apply to wholesale pricing, so if you're already getting wholesale prices, you don't get that extra 10%. We'll give you free regular mail shipping on orders. I know there's been some discussion over what we mean when we say regular mail. I don't know, it seems obvious to me. It's just regular mail, like you stick the postage on the parcel and then it goes. There's no tracking, there's no guaranteed delivery dates or anything like that. It's not a premium service. It's just a regular parcel. Or if you're ordering a wire or something, we could put it in a padded envelope. That's just letter mail. But usually everything is parcel mail. So it would be free regular of that. Now, so there's no tracking. Generally, if your order is over 100, I think this is the way we have it delineated on the website, that if your order is over $100, you stop getting the option of shipping it without tracking. We just, once you start reaching a value of over $100, we're not willing to just let it go out into the ether with some postage on there. Of course, if there's anything in particular that you were looking for, and just because we're talking about caps today, if you have a question about a setting or something, just jump in, hop on. We're here for you. We can look up anything to me. Hey, do you have that ring in a size 7 right now? We can check. The inventory is all here, so we can look. So ask away if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. We're here for you. And the whole point of these live stream, whatever events, I guess. Facebook calls it an event, but it's just a live stream program. The reason we do this, obviously, because of the global pandemic, and yes, it's real. It's a real thing. I promise. People are dying. Neither here nor there. But because of this global pandemic, mostly all the shows have been canceled, postponed, things. So this year's been kind of brutal as far as shows go. There haven't been any really since way back in the last winter. And we just like to be able to connect with you guys, connect with you people, connect somehow. Digitally, I guess, is as good as any. Obviously, we're not. We can't set your stones over the internet. And please don't send us your stones for me to set them. People have done that. I'm just saying, don't do that. I guess I'll get going with the caps. Now, when we talk about caps, bead caps, it's just basically usually a disc-ish shape that's kind of domed a little, that you can stick on the end of maybe if you have a bead that has a bigger hole than usual, or an ugly hole, or maybe the beads are just kind of plain and you want to spice them up, or maybe the beads are amazing and you just want to add a cap on the ends to give it some extra, whatever. The caps can be anything from as simple as just a little disc like that, right? It's just a little, thing, all the way up to, you know, big ornate, you know, crazy filigree kind of stuff, you know, like this. Right, so there's really no limit to what you can do with a cap. And you know, really, anything that you have that's like a disc, you can kind of almost make your own, right? If you have, let me see if I can get this in here. I'll get a picture of my phone. If you have one of those, right, a dapping block and punch set, um, if you have a disc with a hole in it, or even not with a hole in it, then you know, bang that into the dapping block and punch. Well, I'm not going to get into how to do that, but you know, you can make a dome, and then put that on the ends of a bead, right? You can also, using caps, if your soldering is good, you could take two caps and put them together and solder them together and make a bead. That's kind of cool. Anyway, neither here nor there. This cap, by the way, this gorgeous, beautiful filigree cap, is BCM 114. Why is that not focusing? There we go. BCM 114 for those things, and I think there are only two left of those. So get them while you can. Um, Plain bead caps like this one, like I showed you before, right? That's just plain, you know, silver, nice shiny silver bead cap. And you see these a lot in, I don't know, semi-precious jewelry, semi-precious stones. Seen a lot in uh, necklaces that are turquoise necklaces with squash blossoms and things. A lot of times they'll put those caps on the ends of the turquoise beads, because turquoises are notoriously soft. Even the which almost all the turquoise, not almost, all the turquoise that you buy in stores is almost always not reconstituted, but stabilized. Like 97% of the turquoise that's out there is stabilized. And I don't know why, but for some reason people think that stabilized means something is bad about it, but it's not. Like natural turquoise, if you used it in jewelry, uh, it's so soft that it, you know, scratches and it won't hold its polish really nicely, and you know, it'll crack, it'll break, it'll get chips. So stabilizing it just means that it's immersed in a chemical under pressure, extreme pressure, and the chemical gets infused in the turquoise and holds it firm anyway, and then you can lapidary it. But it's still advisable to put caps on either side of those things so the edges don't run up against each other. Pearls, same thing, although you don't see many bead caps with pearls. Usually for pearls they'll do knotting. They'll put a knot in between each of the pearls so the edges of the holes don't rub up against each other. Anyway, this plain bead cap that I was talking about before, right? This just plain silver one. We've got this in a bunch of different sizes, from 3 millimeters up to, I think I've got a bigger one somewhere. I haven't seen it. 8 millimeter. I think there's a bigger one, 10. So 3 millimeter BCM 109, and we've got a 4 millimeter BCM 110. It's not in the same tray, but I think there's a 5 millimeter somewhere. There's a 6 millimeter BCM 350 and BCM 307N is a 7 millimeter cap. And here's oh, there it is. Here's the 8 millimeter version, right? BCM 063C, and here's a 10 millimeter version of that one. That's not going to focus. BCM 064C, which makes me believe that there might be a 064B somewhere. That's probably 9 millimeter, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, so plain bead caps, we got them, and we got a bunches of them, and you can go ahead and order those in whatever size you like, you know, quarter price. Give us a call, and we'll let you know. We have some caps that are a little more ornate, right? So, I don't know if you can see that, right? It's just that same disc, but there's like a, I don't know, like a serrated, pleated, you know, ring around the edge. Something. And I'm not going to pull them out. We've got a couple different sizes of that. That's BCM 302, and that one I showed you is the 6mm version of it. Some other, we've got tons of these flowery kind of bead caps too. That kind of that 5. Maybe we should have this facing downwards. Anyway, so that you know, kind of like a Bali style plumeria flower, right? That 5-petaled, you know, star. And that one is BCM 341. That 7mm. And we've got those, you know, similar ones to that in lots of different styles and sizes, right? Nice, cute little bead cap. That's cute. That one is, can I get that in there? BCM 220. I know you can't see, that's a little. Right, you see that there? That's better. BCM 220, 6mm. That's a 6x6x4. That just means that it's 4mm deep. You're going to start to notice a trend. You know, a lot of these bead caps are, you know, simple in concept. You know, just nice flowery sort of patterns. You know, flowery sort of looks, right? And as far as the what size beads you want to put these on, that's 10mm bead cap. Generally, you know, you don't want the bead to, or the bead cap to completely cover the bead. And depending on the curvature of the cap, it wouldn't be able to anyway. Sometimes it would just sit on the outside, which is fine. It gives you kind of an interesting look to the bead. You know, if you're using a bead cap that's much smaller than the bead that you're putting it on. Like if the bead cap is for a 4mm bead and you've got an 8mm bead that you're putting the cap on, it'll give a way different look than it would be if you put it on. If you put it on a 4mm bead, it would still more or less look round. Where if you put it on a bigger bead, like an 8mm bead, it would look like two little accents on the ends of the, you know, side of the cap. So there's so many variations that you can use with those, that kind of thing. There, you know, how you use them is totally up to you. There's no right or wrong, you know, way to do it. Yes. I don't know if you can see this. I just love this cap. I think this is super classic. You know, it's kind of a filigree style, with a lot of empty space there, void space there for the to be able to show the bead through the cap. I don't know if you can see that because there's nothing in the background, but I don't know if you can see everywhere you can see black in that cap. You know, you would see whatever color the bead is, sort of thing. And I just love that classic look. BCM 092 is that good, and that's 11mm bead cap. So you probably, you know, if you had like a good 14 or 16mm bead, you know, that would fit beautifully on that. And you know, I contemplated opening all of these bottles in advance, But then I just thought of how many ways that could be like a disaster waiting to happen, and decided against it. So it's going to take me an extra second or so in between caps to show you this. This is another really lovely open cap, where you're going to see mostly, bead on here. This is more decorative than I don't know, not really functional because they're all functionally the same, but it's just more decorative than some of the others. You could see more of the bead inside there in between that edge, and it's kind of a I don't know if you can see that it's kind of a taller, bead cap. So that BCM 318, and the bead cap is 8 millimeters wide. So if you put that on an 8 or 10 millimeter bead, it would, envelope the bead a lot. You would still see a lot of the bead, but not as much as you would. If you're using something like that was more closed, right? This is great. This has got a nice big hole in there. So if you're using maybe leather cord or satin cord or something like that, you can use that. Another thing this, especially ones with big holes are really good for multi-strands. If you have multi-strands, you could bring a bunch of multi-strands up through that, where you just take the ends of them. You make loops in the ends of all of your strands. You put a head pin through the loop, and then you pull them through the cap. BCM 073, that's 10 millimeter cap. And I know that was way more simple of an explanation than that technique probably deserves. Which, I don't know. I might show you that in another future episode, which we're trying to get thing. I don't know if I should tell you this. I'm going to tell you anyway. I'll get in trouble later, but that's okay. We're trying to get one of those document cameras that you can use, to show, everything. But all the places that have them, there's one that I used to use when I used to teach classes ages ago, and that company, when we looked at them, they were all sold out, and there's like back orders, and duh, of course, because everybody's trying to do distance learning, and every teacher in the continent is trying to buy them now because they need them to do their lessons at work. But anyway, and then we'll probably do more how-tos, actual demonstrations of the best practices for lots of things. How to set stones, how to use bead caps and multi-strands, those kind of things, because I'm going to show you some other caps a little bit later that are not really caps, they're cones, but they're still caps that are awesome for that kind of multi-strand effect. And I think it would be good to have a little demo to show people how to use them. Anyway, this is another one of my favorites. I know I keep saying I have favorites, but I just love most of these things. Some more than others, and this is one that I love more than others. It's nice. Not a super high dome, so this is really good on the outside of a bigger bead. But I just love how classic that is. Kind of square, so it gives you 4 points coming down off the sides of the bead. BCM 285 is the code for that, and that's a 12 millimeter cap. Here's another one, not in the same vein, but still nice, kind of a low dome, to the cap. Right, just love that. Those little kidney shapes, curly cues, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. Almost filigree, style, but real, I don't know what you want to call it. Just big. Love that. Nice, big, solid cap.
Isn't it like a wire wrap?
Yeah, it's like wire components soldered together, which if you're a jeweler and you can, you know, solder, you can probably make that. BCM 338, 16 millimeter cap. Here's another one that's, oops, right, a little bit higher dome, but those, you know, the petals of this flowery kind of cap are open with some sort of like Bali style granulation at the tips where they meet. Um, right, another nice open cap that you know, you'll be able to see a lot of the bead inside there. I guess that's why these are designed with such a high dome. So when you put this on the bead, the petals extend onto the surface of the bead a lot more. So probably not the kind of thing you would want to use if you were showcasing the beads, because they would sort of occlude the beads a little bit. But if you had just some plain semi-precious stones, you know, carnelians maybe, or whatever, anything that were kind of an even color, you could put these kind of caps on there, and then it would be like, look at these gorgeous, you know, beads with the caps on them. BCM 205 is the code. An 11 millimeter cap. I'm skipping over some. Here's another real, very cool sort of cutout. Again, almost sort of filigree, but not quite. There's a lot of gaps between them. I think you could see the pink of my finger underneath there, right? So if this were on a bead, obviously you would see whatever color the bead was on the edge of that thing. It's pretty low dome, so it'll sit nice and flat on the bead. That one's antiqued, by the way, in between the little piece. BCM 254 is your total. That's a 10 millimeter cap, so you probably want to put that on like a 12 to 14 millimeter bead for optimal effect. I'm going to show you this. This it looks pretty similar to that you know, the giant one that I showed you. It's kind of like a smaller version of the, you know, the same you know, the same style, all the same elements, all the same components, just scaled down a little bit. Nice big open filigree cap. This giant cap is gorgeous. This is the kind of thing that you would put you know, on a centerpiece bead. You know, maybe if you have one on both sides of a giant centerpiece bead, or like this, where you have the strands of a necklace coming down into it, and then a big tassel or something coming out the bottom. Lots of different ways you can use these kind of caps. But again, nice big open cap. That one is, I can't even close the bottom here. BCM 069 is 17 millimeter bead cap. So, golly, you'd need a pretty good sized bead to cover that, to cover that up. I'm just going to keep going. Here's there was one thing I just want to make sure that I show you. Gorgeous, very simple, you know, trillium sort of shape, right? Or clover shape, I guess, if you do like that, or like clubs. With that, you know, that hammered texture, distressed texture, right? Not a very tall cap. That one is BCM 052 is 11 millimeter cap. And if you have any questions about the size of the holes, I think on the website it's almost always listed, or it should be always listed, how big the hole is, you know, in the cap. But if you're not sure, or if you want us to double check, you know, before you buy a bunch of caps, let us know, and we'll measure them for you. This cap is another one that I know that we've got a couple different sizes of this version, right? It's just, you know, kind of a simple, you know, flower sort of shape, daisy shape, with that flat circle of excuse me, kind of faux, I don't know what you call that, faux granulation in that that thing, because these are cast. Not a very tall cap, nice round cap. This one is BCM 297, and that's a 9mm version of that cap. Like I said, I know that particular cap, we've got a couple different sizes of them, which I'm sure I will find them as I go. Oh, here's a nice little throwback to that, right? The first ones that we did, just a very plain silver flowery shape, right? So this would present itself on the bead, you know, kind of like that. Give you a nice little sort of scalloped look to that. And this also, I know that we've got a couple different sizes of that. Here's BCM 017 is a 9mm version of that. I'm not sure off the top of my head where the other ones are. Getting back a little more filigree look again. Right, I love these ones with the open. I think these are always more interesting, you know, if there's an open section. I think it's probably interesting because these are the kind of things that I used to make just for fun. You just make a circular filigree shape and then stick it in a dapping block and hammer it, and boom, instant bead cap. I just love that. Again, that one not a very high dome, so it's good to sit right up against the bead. BCM 329, so that's a 9mm cap, probably fit perfectly on like a something like a 10 to 12mm bead. Here's a good plain one. Another plain flowery shape. Maybe dogwood, right? It could be a stylized dogwood. Isn't that the flower of Washington State or BC? Not sure. Good. Again, nice kind of low dome on that. BCM 059 is the skew for that 11mm bead. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of caps that are caps, but they're also can be cones. Let me show you this one first. There's not really a good order to show them in, right? So, right, they're kind of triangular, not triangular, but conical. They're like a cone, right? So they're cones. They're kind of deep. That one's not very big. And again, these are awesome for golly, anything. You could put this right on a bead, and would, you know, BTM 117 is the skew for that. With a 6mm is the size of the cap, and 1 point something, I guess, is the hole. If you put that on the end of a bead, you would end up extending the length of the bead by, golly, I don't know how big that is. Probably also about 6mm wide. So you know, if you had, I don't know, like a 10mm bead, all of a sudden the length of that in your design would end up being 22mm if you put one of those caps on either side of it, right? So it would just, you know, extend the life of your beads. You have to use fewer beads. More caps, but here's another, you know, nice little cap. Kind of a cone. It's a little more of a hybrid between the traditional bead cap and the cone, but with those kind of like ballet accents on there. BTM 115 is the code for that. Here's another one with right, nice tall. It's that ballet sort of rope effect around that. They call it a rope effect, but I always call it a twisted wire, I think, because if you just take two pieces of wire and you twist them around each other, that's the effect you get. BCM 315 is the SKU for that, the 6mm cap. Um, Here's another really cool one. Right, nice tall cap, the good size hole, you know, some open accents, sort of thing. Nice big wide opening in the bottom. I kind of always, I don't know, these look like chess pawns to me, you know, like pawns on a chessboard. And that we've also got a couple of different styles of those. There's not any in the tray that's right in front of me, so maybe we'll find them later. BTM 108 is the SKU for that lovely um, Bali style chess pawn. Oh no! Before I forget, I wanted to show you this one because this, if I have a favorite, Cap, and why you would believe me that this is my favorite, I don't know, because I say everything is my favorite, but this one really, really is my favorite. It's just you know, it's a very low dome, you know, kind of daisy cap, but I don't know if you can see there's cubic zirconias in each of the petals, right, set in each of the petals there. Um, that is just gorgeous. I don't know, anywhere you use that instant credibility to whatever you're adding. That one, BCM 142. It's a 9mm cap, so anything good for because it's pretty flat. It's not really heavily domed. You're probably looking ideally for like a 11, 12mm bead. I think would be, you know, ideally perfect for that kind of thing. Anyway, that's my favorite because I like everything with cubic zirconias in there. Here's a tiny. This is a perfect kind of a, you know, accent bead if you have, I don't know, some lovely glass, maybe Millefiori glass. You ever seen those glass beads from Venice, you know, with all the Millefiori patterns on them? Those need to have something in there because the edges of those glass beads are super sharp. It's just because of the way that they make those beads. Usually glass beads are made on a steel rod or a metal rod with clay on the outside of it. You know, whatever, lots of different formulations of the clay that they put, and then they melt the glass on the outside, and you do whatever decorating they're doing on that, and then you know, you put them in a kiln, you let them cool slowly, and when the glass beads are cool, you pull the rod out, and that's why you see a lot of those, you know, lampwork beads, what they call lampwork beads, that have the clay on the inside of them. You know, if you ever notice that, that's why. But Venetian beads are not made that way. The Millefiori beads that they do, they actually make them on a metal rod, and then they take that metal rod and then they just, when it's done and it's cool, they soak that in acid until the rod begins to dissolve, and then they pull it out that way. So there's no clay on the inside. Uh, Whatever, you know, they've been doing it for 500 years. So who am I to say that that's, you know, a dumb way to do it? Anyway, that little star cap, right? That little thing, which 5mm cap, BCM 243. That instantly adds a lot of happiness to whatever you're putting that on. And those, you know, those little tiny, you know, fairly thin plain caps are super inexpensive, so you can definitely, you know, put those caps on either side of every bead in a necklace. You know, be fearless instantly adds you know, a different look, you know, a super different look. Here's another, I'm trying to get this in focus, right? Not a very high dome, but this bead cap looks like it's made, you know, almost just out of, you know, jump rings, you know, that are all kind of soldered together. It's not, but it looks like it. You know, if you were making this on your own, you could probably make one just by soldering a bunch of jump rings together into this pattern and then putting it in a tapping block. And I just love how, I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't see this in the camera, but this these are, It's been super pickled, which is I don't want to get too far into the chemistry, but if you put silver pieces in acid called pickle, I think the surface, the copper gets dissolved out of the surface of the sterling before the silver does. So you end up with a surface that's kind of white. And oh, you know what? There's another cap. I can show you that better on this. Right. So the silver looks white. I don't know if you could see that inside the petals of that. How that looks, kind of white. And then when you polish, if you just polish the surface, the highlights of it, the highlights get nice and shiny, but all of the nooks and crannies stay kind of white. They're still silver looking, but they're matte white almost. Um, it's just a very cool effect. And so that one that I just showed you, BC, that's not going to focus. BCM 355 is the code for that. That's the 8mm cap. I have to remember not to show you that one when we get to that tray. Here's another one that looks right. It's kind of stylized, and I know this is a flower bud, chrysanthemum bulb, I think. It looks kind of like an artichoke to me. I don't know. Probably not as fashionable as a chrysanthemum bulb would be. But just lovely floral sort of motif bead cap without being, explicitly floral. I kind of like that. Definitely kind of, organic with the concentric layers of petals that are pushed up against it. Very cool. And that one, BCM 077 is your SKU for that. Here's another one that's kind of in a similar vein. Not as floral, but it still has sort of like a repeating pattern that's stacked one on top of the other. It's not, but it looks like it is. It's a really cool 3D illusion effect. Just very cool cap, antiqued to make those patterns pop. BCM 334 is your SKU for that. 9mm cap. Oh. That I'm not gonna. That's not really a cap. That's a bead. How did that get in there? Okay, here's another obviously floral. I don't know, more more vegetation than flower, right? I don't know, leaves. It's in a flower pattern though. Not very tall. This you could very easily, bend those prongs of that. Bend the leaves on that to adjust that for almost any size bead. That is a 9mm bead with a 1.7mm hole. See that we actually do measure the size of the hole. BCM 054 is your code number for that. How about some more? Now these are absolutely, straight up filigree, style. These little filigree components. I mean, these are actually, they're not, they're filigree style, but they're still cast. Right. There's a pretty low dome of that. Again, and these kind of ones, these kind of caps, you could probably pretty easily push those onto, even if you don't have a dapping block and punch, you could pretty easily push them onto the shape of the bead. If you wanted to use a smaller bead, then than these are made for. BCM 232 is that lovely filigree cap. It's 10 millimeter wide cap, so you know, even if you had, I don't know, 12 millimeter bead, you could definitely push that onto that. And another filigree style cap. Lovely shiny silver. You can see that. Not very low dome, right? And BCM 057 is a 10 by 11. What? It's either 10 or 11 millimeters wide. Something like that. Here's another. Get this out. It's a little bit taller cap, a little bit taller dome cap, right? Very open framework. This again, definitely, you know, it just provides an accent, you know, to a bead. You'll definitely be able to see more of the color of the bead in there, sort of thing, while providing a really gorgeous accent to the cap. And it's made with a pretty high dome, 7 millimeter wide, but you probably wouldn't want to put a bead bigger than like you know, 8 millimeters or so, or put that cap onto a bead bigger than like 8 millimeters or so, because you'd end up with um, you know, the bead extending, you know, past pretty far past the edge of the thing, which is a very cool effect. And like I said, with those other ones that are more almost like cones, could be a design you're going for. Here's a cute. This is definitely all accent. This provides, you know, almost nothing besides a very cool effect. You know, you could put this on a, you know, a silver bead, you know, just to give it an accent. But any bead that you put it on will automatically become, I don't know, just way more interesting, right? Just think of that, those little branches pushed over onto the edge of, onto the sides of a bead, right? In a necklace. You know, you don't have to do the whole thing, just you know, a couple here or there. You know, I don't know. I'm not the designer. You're the designer. I'm just showing you the parts that you can use. BCM 118, and it says 10 millimeters. So those are like they're 10 millimeters wide at the widest place, but clearly that kind of a cap is meant to be pushed over onto a bead. So even if you had a bead that was like, you know, 8 millimeters wide, you can definitely use that same cap and pull it over onto the thing up to as big as you want. You know, it probably wouldn't go smaller than 8 millimeters, but 8 up to, you know, probably as big as you like, you know, to push it over. Definitely will give you some interesting, you know, texture. Here's another, a little bit bigger one. Just there's no style of cap or flavor, I guess, that we don't have a variation of. I just love that, you know, flower with alternating petals, you know, kind of heart-shaped petals and regular teardrop petals, I guess. That is BCM 044. That's a 13 millimeter cap, and that you probably want to use that on a bigger bead, definitely. Yeah. I'm gonna move on because I'm already at that point where I'm gonna be running late. Oh, here's another one of those. Oh, and here's another one. Right, that other cap that I showed you before. That I said I knew we had a couple different sizes of it. Here's a little bit bigger one. Actually, it's quite a bit bigger than the one I showed you before. I think that other one was like a 6 millimeter cap. This is that 10 millimeter version of that BCM 336. And that's, you just can't go wrong with that sort of style. Here's another smaller, I guess not exactly the same, kind of a little variation on that, right? Where that faux granulation pattern in the tips of the petals, so they're only as big as the petals. And again, that is BCM 290. That's a 7 millimeter cap. Um, Anybody have any questions on how to use caps or why you would use caps or no? Is there anybody still awake in the watching this? Here's a lovely flower starfish. I guess it's six-legged starfish, sort of. I guess it's a flower, a star. Kind of a faux Bali granulation. Look nice. Flat-ish dome, not a very deep dome. BCM 288 is that. That's another one of the same ones. There's another big, beautiful. Not a very deep dome, so you can get away with using beads that are not giant on this one. But again, nice big open lattice sort of effect. I don't know, it kind of looks like a, I don't know, wagon wheel? No, that's not very romantic. Something beautiful, right? Reminiscent. And that's a pretty big cap, though. So what is that? BCM 061, and that's a 13 millimeter cap with a 2.1 millimeter hole. In case you were curious. Here's another giant. I'm going to regret opening this because I always have trouble getting this bottle closed again after I open it. But here's another nice big giant cap. Oops. Nice big cap. Where the individual petals are, not very huge. And they're not connected until they get all the way up near the hole. So you can bend these petals down over the edges of a bead. So if you have a bead that's a kind of irregular shape or something, maybe, I don't know, golly, so many ways you could use this. Nice big open antiqued Bali effect. And okay, I'm just going to keep that not closed. BCM 015 is the SKU for that 19 millimeter cap. Oh, I got it. Here's a, boy, this one is straight up, Bali style, cap. You can't get more traditional than that, right? That granulation, the little rope pattern down at the bottom, that antiquing, you know, this one, you definitely going to end up with, I don't know, because if you put it on a bead that fits perfectly inside that cap, you'd end up covering most of the bead. So this one is going to be, will add dimples to the size of your beads. Or I guess not really dimples, protrusions to the sides of your bead. BCM 345 is your SKU for that, and that's an 8 millimeter cap. I'm going to start accelerating now, going a little bit more quickly. Let me show you some big caps. This is a nice one, right? Nice big, almost kind of grape patterns on the outside. It's not very shallow, or it's not very deep, right? It's pretty shallow dome, but it's pretty wide. That's BC. You're not going to be able to focus on that. BCM 357 is your SKU. That's a 14 millimeter bead. And this one is one of the caps that I always fantasize about making into a bead, just because it's so the edges on the inside are so flat and perfect. Nice, beautiful flower, cap. Can't go wrong. But I think it would look awesome if you soldered. I'm not going to be able to show you this, but if you soldered two together into a bead. Anyway, neither here nor there. So here's a nice one. Oops. Not really flowery, not really, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting with those the granulation in between the inside and the outside edges, holding them together. Nice open uh, frame, so you can definitely see a lot of the bead, the color of the bead in the edges. Very decorative, but very cool. BCM 353 is the SKU for that. Come on, you can do it. Camera can focus. Maybe not. Okay. Here's another one that looks like, this is one of those caps that look like it's a cap on top of a cap. You can see that sort of 3D effect. It's definitely very cool. Nice tall dome, so you'll see a lot of space between the beads. When you do this, and again, this SKU for that one is BCM 361. That's a 9mm cap. I love that. Very good. Very cool. Another nice kind of Bali effect, right? With that that I don't know, that kind of rope effect, rope look. Not a very tall cap. BCM 354. 11mm. So camera's having trouble deciding what to focus on. Here's another one of those chess pawns, right? It's another cap. This is really awesome for multi-strands or tassels or something. You can have, your whatever, string or wire or something coming in this end, and having a bunch of, dangles or something coming out the other end to make like a tassel on there. That'd actually be awesome for a tassel. That one, BTM 128. 128. That's an 8mm wide, 9mm deep. Gonna be moving right along. More caps, more caps. Here, this you can't go wrong. Nice, plain, big, gorgeous, cap. So it's not going to overpower the bead. It's not going to be, look at my caps, instead of look at my beads that have very cool decorations on the edges. And that's a pretty giant cap, pretty big cap. BCM 037 is the SKU, 16mm. That's a whopper. You need a giant bead to put that on. Here's one. Very delicate, very classic. I don't know. Screams kind of Victorian to me. Can you see that? Can you focus on that sort of filigree? Not really filigree, but kind of filigree-ish. Open framework, so you can see the bead inside. Pretty good sized hole on that, and not a very deep dome, kind of shallow dome. What do you think? Somebody asked me, how can we tell prices? Is that the question you're thinking? Well, the prices that are on these things, this is BCM 008, there's two prices. You see that R is the retail price and the W is the wholesale price, but we haven't updated. This is why I'm not actually saying, normally I would tell you the prices out loud as I read off the SKU, but we haven't updated these prices yet on the labels. We've updated them on the website and in our computers, in our POS system, but until we get the labels remade, done, and the prices have gone up about I think on the caps it was 30%, 25 or 30%. I don't know. They've gone up. Just because the price of silver, I didn't talk about this earlier, but we've had to raise all of our prices a little bit because of the price of silver has increased. When I looked at it, I know everybody's looking over like, a month or 2 months, but I looked over the past like 4 months, and it was almost a 60% increase in the price of raw material of silver in that, length of time. We haven't updated our prices ever since as long as I've been here anyway. So, a couple of years, several years. So that's why. You can see the prices on the website. You see the price on the jar as I show you the jar. Just add, I don't know, I want to say around 30%, and then you'll be close. But anyway, yeah, those are the prices. That's surprising me. Oh, does that answer? I hope that answers your question. Does it answer?
Yes.
Thing?
Okay.
You okay with that? You good with that? Okay. Thanks, Jacqueline. Okay. And I'm sorry, I can't see you in my in my phone. This is Marble only keeps me here to do the blah blah blah. He's the one who's controlling the behind the scenes.
Director.
He's the director. That's right. Yes. I'm just the talent. He's the man in charge. Here's a I actually know people who work in film, and everybody I know who works in the production side, they always talk about the talent in such derisive terms. It's like, ugh, the actors, the talent, the people who are on camera are always the worst. The people who do all the work are the people behind the scenes. Anyway, here's another gorgeous, I don't know, not really a star, sunburst, sort of style. A little bit open, a little bit not. All gorgeous. Antiqued again. And that code BCM096 is the SKU for that. 8 millimeters is the thing. And again, just for example, 98 cents was the retail price previously. I think you're looking more at like $1. What would it be? $1.30-ish? $1.20 something-ish? $1.27? I think. Is Marvel going to look it up right now? No? Nothing. Never mind.
Okay. I can check.
Not important.
I can check.
Well, I mean, obviously, the pricing is important, but you can always check on the website. You just any SKU that I read out, if you're interested, you could search for that on the website. And if it's not on the website, let us know, because some of these caps have slipped through the cracks. We get shipment in, we take pictures, but I don't know. Sometimes it seems like I've noticed that there were a few caps that aren't on the website that we have. Here's another lovely, not really open, just a little bit open sort of texture on the petals with some granulation up at the thing. Again, lovely antiqued kind of flowery bead cap. BCM319, that's a 9 millimeter cap. Here, I was going to skip over this one, but I just want to show it to you because it's basically that same cap that we had before, that chrysanthemum bulb, I think is what it's meant to be. That's what it looks like. Or an artichoke. Artichoke caps, it's just a bigger version of that other one that we had before. BCM077L for large. So yeah, I guess the other one I showed you is BCM077. Here is, this is like awesome cap for tassels or multi-strands or those kind of things. You could definitely use it as a normal kind of bead cap, right? Except it's going to add a lot of length to the edges of the thing, a lot of width between the beads, which sometimes, if you've only got a few beads and you want to extend the length of your necklace, that will definitely do it. We're just going to keep going. I don't want to miss all the good ones. Here's the giant. I think this is the biggest cap we have. Yeah, yeah. And we've only got one left. But this gorgeous Bali style with that granulation. Golly, that's a killer bead. That's a killer bead cap. BCM083 is the SKU for that. 22 millimeters wide. So it's pretty much a giant bead cap. There's one. Okay. I'm going to be straight up honest. I've never seen this one before. This is the first time I've ever actually opened this. And it's weird. I don't know what. It's not a regular bead cap because it doesn't have a hole in the top. Okay. But it's like a. Maybe I'll figure out how to use this and get back to you. BTM 135 is the SKU. 11 by 13 millimeters. That's kind of embarrassing. Here's a cute cap. I don't know how to use it, but it's very cool. Here's just a lovely, and this is kind of unusual because it's a Bali style, you know, with the granulation and everything. Except it's not antiqued, so it's all sort of shiny, and it's almost like you don't expect to see that kind of thing. And I mean, I like the antique look. But for some reason it's just kind of unusually cool. BCM 231 is the code for that. That's an 8mm cap. And I wish I had some examples of, because I know that we have some examples of caps that we have an antique version and a not antique version. Here's a very cool, again, kind of, I don't know if you could see that sort of that kind of spiral pattern that makes it not, it's hard to describe. It's kind of like a spiral, but not really. Kind of a rectangular spiral. Oh, and I've lost this. Oh, no. But it's a nice open cap. I think you could see that effect a little better there, right? That sort of wavy sort of thing. When you take this very simple, you know, concept, you know, with just a couple of curly cues, you know, put together as components. If there are any wire workers and solderers out there, you're getting lots of ideas. BCM 273 is the code. That's a 9mm cap, 9mm wide cap. And here is just a lovely plain-ish, but it's antique, so it's definitely pops. All those lovely petals and granulation pops. Not a very tall dome. Nice, you know, kind of shallow, versatile. You can use it for anything. BCM 286. Oh gosh, I'm getting close to my deadline. Let me just show you, because I know I'm gonna regret if I don't show you. So here's some caps that are not actually caps; they're more cones, right? For multi-strands. You know, you see these on the ends of necklaces where you have, you know, several strands of whatever, you know, beads or whatever, and they all come up. Usually you end the last, you know, couple of inches of those things with smaller beads, and those all go into the cap here. And then you have like a whatever, something coming out here, and then you attach this to the clasp, and that connects the, you know, binds all those things together. I'm never going to get this back into the jar. Right? So that lovely sort of Bali style, decoration, right, with the wavy edges. BTM 212 is the SKU for that. It's 14 millimeters wide is the opening, and 30 millimeters tall is the size of that. And then we've got a couple of other very interesting, caps. Again, here's another lovely cap. Accents at the top, nice wide open bottom, and that Bali style decorations are on the outside. BTM 213 is the SKU. You please focus. No, or not. There we go. BTM 213. Here's a little bit shorter version of that same kind of thing, with a little fewer accents, right? Again, beautiful antiqued cap. BTM 214 is the SKU for that. I think that would actually be a pretty cool tutorial. The best way to use these kind of caps for multi-strands. Right? Nice big cap. Or tassels. I've seen these kind of things, maybe not the big ones, but these smaller things where there's just an earring with, a bunch of lengths of chains, dangling out of this kind of a thing. Obviously big, sort of, like chandelier-ish earrings. And here is another cone that's like that chess pawn sort of shape. I don't know what else to call it. It's just a sectioned, sort of thing. That one's not antique, but just gorgeous. BTM 10566 BTM 106. Focus. There we go. Oh, well, I'm going to show you. And because I'm way over now, the last cap I'm going to show you today is this lovely cone. Right? Sort of a fluted bottom with that faux filigree, lovely dots on there. We got to a lovely cone. And that cone is about, I guess the opening in the bottom of that is 9 millimeters, and it's 19 millimeters tall. BTM 130 is the SKU for that. And I think, because I'm already way over an hour, which I shouldn't have been, if there's no other questions in the chat or anything like that, I think we're just gonna call it a day for now in caps. Obviously, we don't have enough time. I could just keep going all day and show you every cap that we have. But I think that gives you a kind of a good idea of all the different styles. Very plain ones, everything from nothing but a plain silver disc all the way up to the most crazy, most ornate caps you can imagine. I really feel like there isn't a style of bead cap that you can imagine in your mind, like, oh, I wish I had a bead cap that did this. That we don't have something that's at least similar. Obviously, everybody has their own imagination. You're always going to imagine something that doesn't exist in the real world. But if we don't have something super close, we can also custom make one for you. Right? I didn't talk about custom work, which you're doing a lot of. We're doing so much custom stuff these days, which is great. I love it because there's nowhere and I think people are starting to catch on. There's nowhere that you're going to find people who are able to do custom work at the prices that we're able to offer it. There just isn't, especially on one-offs. If you have a design for a bead cap that you want, or anything, a bail, a pendant, a ring, from the design stage all the way up to the plating and the casting and the plating. Um, I think for up to 5 grams sterling silver, the price is $65 Canadian. That includes all that, the design and everything. Uh, Nobody's going to offer you that price. If you walked into a jeweler and said, "Hey, I have an idea for a bead cap that I want," it's going to be at least $300 or $400 for them by the time they start, carving the, the wax, and then, we've streamlined the whole process, and we are the factory, so there's nobody between us and and the factory. There's nobody adding layers of markups. I think so. We're the place to go if you want something done. Uh, custom work. So and of course we do custom also in gold, rose gold, you name it. We can do just about anything. When if it's custom, we can do anything. All the production stuff that we have here obviously is all sterling silver, but for custom we can do anything, literally anything. Well, within reason, and even then we'll try to figure out a way how to do it, even if it's not reasonable. So with that, I think, unless there's anything else, did I forget? No, nothing. Okay, I think we'll leave it here for now for this week. Thank you for joining us on our Wednesday live stream at Sylvia Findings. You can always find us at SilviaFindings.com, or the Facebook groups, or golly, just call us on the phone. We're here. During business hours, we're here. If you log on to the website and you need to speak with somebody right away, there's a little chat bubble. If we're still awake at home, if you log into there, we'll answer you. We have those notifications on our phone, so we can jump into that chat and get a hold of you wherever you are. So as much as we'd like to say it, there's always a way to get a hold of one of us. So unless it's really like the middle of the night, and then we're sleeping, we're not answering the phone. Although, just as an aside, I was just joking with Nelson yesterday. We have an Etsy store, and I just recently installed the actual Etsy app on my phone. I used to get notifications emailed through my phone, but I actually put the Etsy app on my phone, and I just and it just happened again last night. People who order in the middle of the night, whatever, there's a sound that the phone, that the Etsy app notification makes a cha-ching sound. So I'm lying in my bed at like 4:30 this morning, and I hear a cha-ching. Like, okay, time to get up and go to work. But I think I'm going to disable that notification because it's kind of annoying in the middle of the night. Anyway, neither here nor there. Little anecdote for the end of the day. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next Wednesday, 10:30 Pacific time, and extrapolate it out to wherever you are. Take care. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take care of things. Stay creative. Keep making stuff, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.